Hello everyone, welcome back. Today's a big day. Today's the day we finally get to doing the trade goods we've been talking about the whole series. I don't know if it'll be as exciting for you as it is for me, or has been for me. I've done a few dry runs, but I sure hope so, because it's been a lot of work, even more than I expected, trying to get ready to be able to do this. So, uh, there's a couple of bases I haven't shown you so far, and they happen to have some of the materials we're going to need. So I'm going to show them to you real quick while we grab those bases. Unfortunately, the lights went down in the sky while we were getting this video started, but you can still see this base here. It's kind of got a wood grain exterior. It's got this gold and red thing going on. Looks pretty cool, I think. This is the base where we get radon. Got a nice big supply depot full of lots of radon. We're going to put that in our storage container because, well, I'll show you in a minute why. So that's one base you haven't seen. I put posters on the wall because these white walls get kind of boring, so I tried to cram as much stuff into this base as I could to keep the white walls from taking over. So we've got some windows we can look out over the valley of radioactive waste, and anyway, it looks kind of cool. We're going to head over to the next one now. That one's going to be one you've seen before, where we get our nitrogen. We're just going to pop in, grab the nitrogen, and pop right out again as quick as we can. Although I really like this base, it's one of my favorites. I like how it's built on the side of a cliff. I like how green the planet that it's on is. And I always seem to arrive here at night when I'm on camera. Oh well, I think it looks pretty cool at night too. You can hear the Gravitino balls humming on the hillside. That's the view. It's a pretty nice view. Don't know if I showed that off before. Crazy mountain valley. Basically completely impassable unless you have fancy flying vehicles like we have. Alright, we need nitrogen. Put that in storage. And then we're going to pop over quick to place where our sulfurine is. Also, some of you may have noticed by now, I've got skulls marking all of my bases. I think the game thinks I'm a pirate. I've spent so much time in pirate systems that I think it thinks I'm a pirate. So there's a mission we can do that I think will clear that off. We'll do that. We might even do that one next after this trade good video that we're working on is complete. May end up being 2 parts, we'll have to see. But there's a pretty cool cosmetic reward for doing that mission, so I think we'll prioritize that one maybe even next. And we'll put that sulfurine in the storage container, and you've kind of been able to see a little bit of the base now, but it's a lot like that last base, except I colored it red, similar to the crazy firestorm volcanic planet that we're on. I did some interesting things here. I put these I don't know what I want to call these open wire framed struts on things. We have some round ones and we have some square ones, cubed ones I should say. We have some cylinder shaped ones, and they've got some foundation supports underneath. And then we've got these ones here. This one's 2 of them. Just plunged right into the ground like a great big round support under the landing pad. I think I've shown you some of the cube solids I've used to suspend the landing pads of other bases. This one I just use big ones in the corners instead. Anyway, this base also has storage, but it's buried down beneath the ground, so you can't see it, but I can still send stuff to it. That's about all there is to see for this one. I thought the red and gold looked fiery, just like the planet. It practically blends in. You almost can't see it. Almost. But there's lots of glass everywhere, so you can look out at the surrounding environment while you're in these round prefabricated buildings. I, of course, replaced all the walls with windows. But anyway, that's enough of that. There's also a traveler grave here. I thought would be kind of interesting to be able to look at from inside the base, so I built the base near it. If I had it to do again, I would build it at a slightly different distance, and I'd build like a little shrine around it. But the place where I put down the base, I'd already built the whole base when I tried to build a little thing around it, and it just didn't look right. So I'm like, well, I'll just leave it there floating out in the air. And it looks pretty cool anyway, I think. Alright, so now that we've picked up the gases, which we have to pick up every day that we do these trade goods because they require so much, whereas 5,000 every time we do one of these batches I'm about to show you. There are other goods that you need to pick up also. Some of the metals that you can find on each of the planets, like phosphorus on the planet we were just on, and paraffinium on the planet we were on before that. And I've collected all of those previously. I don't have to collect those every day. I only have to collect those about every 5th day. And I've done a few dry runs trying to figure out the best way to do this trade good manufacturing. Alright, so the next thing we need is all of these plants from this farming facility that we have here. And we have these cool little blue buttons in the middle of each of these modules where we grow these plants that allows us to pick all the plants without having to pick them individually like that. That would take forever. We just walk up to it, harvest all plants, and once you've got it aimed properly, you can just run down the row like this and grab them all. So we're going to keep doing that. It's sometimes a little tricky, like right there we grabbed the plant instead of the button. So you have to be a little careful when you get started, but once you get it started, you can just run right down the row and pick them all. Pretty quick, pretty easy. We'll go real easy on the first two, and then once we know we've got it in line, we'll just run. This would take a lot longer if we were farming these dirt side on a planet. So, really glad to have this freighter base. By the way, on the subject of freighter bases, or at least on the subject of freighters in general, done a little bit more searching, and I believe that I found a freighter that has the high hyperdrive stat that we're looking for, so that we can begin our trek toward the center of the galaxy. And the one that we have, it's got an okay hyperdrive range, but it's below average, so we're probably going to have to give up this cool Sentinel-looking battleship type freighter and trade it in for one that's a little bit more modest looking that has better hyperdrive stats. We'll see about that. I've scouted out a place where I think there's a good one, and I just have to hunt it down in S-Class, which will take a little while, and then we'll see if it actually does have the hyperdrive stat. I think it does. More about that later, perhaps. So, this is the refiner room. This is 32 refiners, and we're going to use 24 of them for this process today. And I've preloaded them, and we're just going to start them up, and then we're going to come back once they're done, which will take less time than it's going to take to turn them all on. and then we'll pick up the products and we will replace the reagents, the reactants. These ones on the left here are the reactants and they make the product here. I'm doing it this way, using oxygen and condensed carbon to expand into even more condensed carbon. You put in 3 parts, 2-part oxygen, 1 part carbon, and get out 6 parts condensed carbon. So it's a good way to make sure that you never have to go planet side and harvest more carbon. And we're also going to be doing ionized cobalt this way. It's the exact same formula, just using ionized cobalt instead. That, oops, I pointed at the wrong one, but that actually worked out. Anyway, so, and then last but not least, we will need some pure ferrite, and that's where the magnetized ferrite mining mining operation that we put in, like that very first base, comes in. We'll have a few of these refiners working out pure ferrite. We'll be running into those real quick here. I guess after we get through this row of refiners, then we'll be to the row of refiners that has the conversion from magnetized ferrite to pure ferrite, which is a 2-to-1 conversion, and you can see that here. And I have this set up so that you can see that the maximum stack size in a refiner, at least on permadeath difficulty or survival difficulty, is only 250. So I have it set up so that we are using enough refiners that none of them are going to have an output higher than 250, and then once they're all done refining, we can just go pick them up and we'll have all the resources we need for manufacturing the trade goods. So we're going to put that in the storage container, and then we're going to put in some more oxygen, and we're going to do it like this, because it'll be less messy that way. And we won't tell it to go. We'll do that tomorrow. One of the things that we picked up, the last thing that we picked up in the farm room, this solanium, it takes 16 hours to grow. So, it's actually distracting me. I'm going to send it to the storage like it should be. It takes 16 hours to grow, so I only do one of these runs a day, and the fact that the cactus flesh and the solanium take 16 hours to grow means that I can do it pretty much whenever I want during the day, and it'll be ready for me the next day. Oops, did I turn that on? I didn't mean to turn that on. We'll just leave that there for now. So we're putting all of this into the storage container. And the reason for that is, unlike on planet-side bases, all of our storage containers on our freighter base are accessible when we're crafting. And what that means is that when we craft, it will take the required crafting components out of our storage containers automatically. We won't have to go and pick them out ourselves. And that saves us tons of time and tons of fuss. So that's why we're doing it on the freighter base. Oops. Let's get the stuff loaded back up. This 250 stack will last for about 3 days on the carbon and the cobalt, and it'll last for 2 days on the magnetized ferrite. So what you're seeing right now is not something that has to be done every day, just every 2 or 3 days. So this whole process is probably going to take us on a daily basis. It's going to take us probably about 20 minutes to gather all of the materials and so on, but when we're done, we're going to make a ton of money. Tons and tons of money. More money than we will easily be able to spend. And that's great, because there are some things we could really... Oops, I'm sitting. I keep telling it to start them again. I've been refining so many things, it's just become a habit. Oops. That's fine. It won't make a big difference when we come back through tomorrow. Alright, let's see here. Got just a few more. I did it again. Got just a few more of these carbon ones to fill back up. I am not going to turn it on this time. Here we go. I almost turned it on. Such a habit. One of the things that you can use these refiners for is to make fuel for your starships and for your freighters. Your frigates, I should say. The ones that go out and do missions, we covered that earlier. Because going out and mining it by hand is time consuming. Kind of a waste of time, honestly. Reloaded that. Reloaded this. Okay. Make sure we're in the right place here. So yeah, it can take a while to refine the fuel using these refiners, but it doesn't have to if you know what you're doing. And maybe I should talk about that at some point. I don't know if now's the right time for that because I'm not going to be able to show it to you. We're trying to hurry along and get the trade goods done. The way this camera keeps spinning around, it's kind of confusing, I'm not going to lie. Alright, now we're into the cobalt. And I think, yes, I think I do have cobalt in my inventory. Yes, we're alright. We'll reload that. And then we'll come around. I guess we have... I'm going the wrong way. That's what I'm doing. Okay, this should be cobalt. Yes, we are in the right place. Something that that YouTubers generally don't tell you is it can be kind of hard to talk about something that isn't exactly what you're doing. You have to do it all the time when you're making videos like this. Because sometimes the thing you're doing, like right now, takes longer to do than it takes to explain how to do it. So you're just going to have to bear with me while I try to keep my brain focused enough on what I'm doing to not mess it up. While hopefully not boring you to tears while narrating the entire process. Alright, now we should be on the pure ferrite. Yes, we are. And we're just going to load that up. Magnetized ferrite, we're not going to turn it on. And we're almost done. Just two more to do. Load that. So hard not to push that go button. The camera spun around on me again. Are we pointed in the right place? We are. The camera spinning thing, it looks pretty cool, but boy is it confusing. Alright. It looks so good when it's so empty. It looks pretty good when it's full too. This is our fleet command room. I didn't show that earlier. It looks much cooler when there's a bunch of ships in it. I haven't sent out my missions for the day, so we can't see the little holograms showing us that there are fleets out exploring the galaxy for us. Alright, so now we can only access all of these storage containers in our freighter base if we are inside the freighter base. If we walk into the bridge, then when we go to our inventory and we try to send stuff to our containers, we can't. If we can't send stuff to the containers, we can't take stuff out of them. So we're going to make sure we're in the freighter base, and we're going to send these last two things to storage. We don't need them in our inventory. That's the whole point of this. If you're ever wondering how to get into the freighter base from the bridge, it's the green stairs and the green archway. That's the way to not get lost. Alright, we did a whole bunch. I'm going to save at the save point right here, just because, and then we are going to get to work. The crafting interface will come here to the trade item tab, and we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. What we're making are stasis devices and fusion igniters. You can see that they're worth 15.6 million units apiece. That's a lot. That impressed me the very first time I saw it. And later on I was impressed by how much work it was to make them, so I only just recently, just before I've made this video with you all, got to making this for the first time. We're going to try and do this as quick as we can. We're starting to run a little long, but I think we can get it done quickly enough to not have to make a second part. So when we make stuff, the game remembers the order we made it in, and we can just scroll straight to the bottom if we've done this once before, which I have. And oh yes, and when you come back and you've just made something, it comes up to the top. So it'll just cycle through like that. And if you remember what the quantity for each of the things is, then you can just keep making them and work your way through. Now, I have a handy little list, because I don't remember perfectly what all of the items are in their exact quantities. So I've got a little list that I can pull up that reminds me. And so for the next three things, we need 10 items each. So we're going to tell it to make 10 of the heat capacitors, 10 of the polyfibers, and 10 of the superconductors. I happen to remember the next one. That's the lubricants. We need 5 of those, and we need 25 glass. And when we're done with this whole process, we're going to have 5 of the stasis chambers and 5, or stasis device, I think is what they're called, and 5 of the fusion igniters. Now, the next part is hot ice. In fact, I think we need 5 of the next 4 things. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Only 5. If we make too many, that might mess things up, because I have mathed this all out to know exactly how much stuff I'm bringing in a day, or how much stuff I need to bring in a day to be able to make 5 of each of these 15.6 million value trade goods. Alright, so the next part is, the next 2 are 10 each. Now, the most recent update of the game has created these crafting trees, and I've tried using those to make this stuff, but it's a little less convenient than my list that I've compiled, so I just keep using my list. We need 5 of everything until we get almost to the end. At this point, we're just going to keep making 5. You can see that it crafts the stuff from our inventory when it's in our inventory. Maybe I should show some of these trees. I can probably do that when we get to the last couple of steps. See if I can make it show the trees. All of these things just need 5 until we get to the quantum processors right there. Only 10 of those. So it's a little involved, but we're in less than 30 minutes going to make a ton of money. I'm not going to spoil the number, but you may be doing the math in your head. And if you're doing the math in your head, you've already probably realized it's going to be a big number. All the rest of the things we have left to make are only 5 each. 5 each. Almost there. Now we're ready to make. Let's see, view craft steps. Here we are. You can see that we need everything. What we've just done is used our radon and condensed carbon and nitrogen and so on to make the enriched carbon and nitrogen salts and so on and so on, making all the little pieces here, there, and everywhere. You can see that the tree is so big on the stasis devices that it can't even show the whole tree. So it's a little less useful, but that's okay. In fact, we can't even use the thing where we can tell it to build 5 at a time in there. I'm sure they'll probably fix that later, but it's not working right now. So we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing. And now we've got 5 each of fusion igniters and stasis devices. It took us 25 minutes, and we were talking and admiring bases along the way. We probably could have done this in 20 minutes if there wasn't talking involved. And I conveniently have a trade terminal right here, and I can just sell those right now for, that is a total of 157 million, which is actually 1 million over the market value of these items. Now we can hunt around in other systems and find a little bit better places to sell things sometimes, but this one's pretty good. Best would, well, you're only going to be doing this once a day, so you don't have to worry about crashing the market when you're only making 5. But best practice is to sell to pilots. That does not change the demand when you sell to them. But we have got a good setup today. We're actually getting more than the market value between the two of them. So we're going to sell those. And boom, 157 million we just made. And we are flush with capital. At this point, we can go salvage starships all day long. We can go do something that's even better for nanites. I might make a video on that later. It's something that the recent update made more effective than it has been in the past. I mean, it was already effective, but it's really good now. Hopefully they don't nerf it. But it's because it's so much easier than salvaging starships. But salvaging starships still gives us those inventory upgrades for our starships as well as the nanites. So I'm definitely going to be doing some of that, and that gets expensive pretty quick. But anyway, more on that later. This has been a nice long video, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you again real soon. Till then, have a good one. Goodbye now.